Hey everybody, welcome back to round 33 of Inside the Clinch. My name is Eric, as always, joined by my longtime friend Johnny. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing all right. Had a long day. As your boy Khabib would like to say, I am tired. Yeah, I had an early morning. Then I had clinic, and then I had an exam right after that. So I was gonna do some more studying tonight. We initially were planning to do the podcast tomorrow, but then I looked at my schedule. I was like, "Fuck that." My schedule is pretty busy tomorrow, so it's good to be here with you today, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You and I just had a fun weekend. We got together with a bunch of our friends. We had a small watch party for UFC 264. Man, we
Shout
got a
out,
lot to talk about
shout
today.
out, Kimberly Hotel.
Yeah, we got a suite there. It was pretty nice. We had to bring our own TV into there just to get the HDMI and everything connected, but we made it work. And, our friends came through and they all had some fun.
Yeah, Eric and I have these spontaneous ideas of basically getting hotel rooms, inviting our closest friends, and just sharing the memories of some great UFC events. This one, especially with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. What a great event to watch with all your boys. Everyone was watching the event. It was literally insane.
Yeah, I think Connor has now seven of the nine top pay-per-views, and that's not counting his pay-per-view with Floyd Mayweather. So the man's a money-making machine, whether he's winning or losing. So we'll get to Connor in a minute, but
We will get to Conor in a minute, man.
yeah, got plenty to say on there. But let's, as we like to always start from the bottom of the card, kind of just give a quick recap of the evening. So Jaglas Jumagulov, he got a beautiful submission to start off the evening, standing guillotine. We knew he was tough, but wow, did he surprised me there.
Yeah, shout out Kazakhstan, man. The dude's a stud. It's nice to see him back on the win column. He was on a two-fight skid prior to this, but it's nice to see him back on the win column where he belongs. He's an outstanding fighter, and I feel like he was just this. He was finding himself in the UFC, and I feel like he's finally in either he's found himself or he's very close to finding himself in the UFC or and as a mixed martial artist altogether.
I agree. Definitely someone to look out for in the flyweight division. He's definitely going to be racking up some wins. I'm excited to keep an eye on this guy going forward. Next up, we had another really exciting fight. Omari Akhmedov and Brad Tavares, they went at it for 3 rounds. Brad Tavares ended up taking the split decision win after 3 rounds. That was another very exciting fight to start off the evening. And then to wrap up the early prelim card, we had Jennifer Maia with a unanimous decision win over Jessica I. I don't know if you guys were watching or not, but Jessica I had a huge gash in the middle of her forehead. I think it was in the first round. The second round, it seemed pretty contained. It wasn't bleeding all that much, but by the time they got to the third round, I mean, she just looked Jessica I just looked like a warrior. I mean, she had blood dripping down her face. Like she looked pumped. She looked like she was excited to be in the octagon, and it was a pretty interesting sight.
Yeah, unfortunately, she didn't get the job done. She lost the unanimous decision, as you mentioned. But yeah, that cut was insane. They put some Vaseline over it after the first round, but as you said, it did open up closer to the third round. Yeah, I believe they clashed heads, and that's how the cut opened up originally.
Yeah, I think there was more than one headbutt on this weekend's card, which look, you can't really do anything about that, but it is unfortunate when you get such a big cut or damage of any kind off of an accidental, headbutt or something that wasn't meant to hit you.
Yeah, before you move on, I just want to say one thing on the Omari Akhmedov and Brad Tavares fight. I told the audience to bet the house on Omari Akhmedov. If you guys haven't noticed so far, don't listen to my bets. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about sometimes. But it was a close fight. It was a close fight. But I'd like to apologize for anyone that listened to my bad advice. And you'll know better in the future, I guess. So to open up the prelims, Trevin Giles took on Dricus du Plessis, and after the fight, he told the audience to remember his name for he has a pretty complicated name, and most people probably don't know who he is. But after that beautiful win in the second round, it's hard to forget his name. No, it's kind of still easy to forget his name, but a lot of people are gonna are gonna like him after his performance on Saturday night. What did you think of it?
Hold on, so is he trying to take over Bilal's nickname? Is that what's happening here?
I don't think he's trying to take over Bilal's nickname, but he gave like a post fight speech or whatever you call it, and he said, I know you guys don't know my name. Remember the name, Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis. That's gonna be a household name, or I don't know how he phrased it, but that was his message there.
Yeah, he's a stud, man. I mean, I was rooting for Trevin Giles, admittedly, going into this fight. I thought Trevin Giles would get the KO and the win. But man, that was a beautiful knockout. He put the lights out on Giles. And I mean, I think that was the first KO of the evening. So holy shit. Like I said, this card was stacked from top to bottom. So we were very fortunate to watch the entire thing.
Yeah, to move on, we had one of our favorite fights on the card. We had Ryan Hall taking on Ilia Topuria. Ryan Hall, a submission specialist, wasn't able to get the job done. Ilia Topuria knocked him out cold. This fight was a little weird because Ryan Hall kept coming in for the same leg attack over and over and over and over again. It's weird because this is mixed martial arts and you have to throw some punches or at least have a more diverse grappling plan. What I feel like what he did, he just kept going for the same thing and eventually he got caught. But he did release a statement saying that he either broke a hand or something in the first few moments of the fight, and which is why he fought like that. But I mean, I don't know. I personally wasn't impressed with his performance on Saturday night, but altogether, I do think he's still a good prospect. But Ilia Topuria, we told you guys, look after this guy. This guy is the real deal, and he showed that on Saturday night.
Dude, I don't know if it was just me, but Ryan Hall looked like some guy they took out of an IBJJF tournament and they just put him in the octagon. Like all he was doing, like you said, is just going for that one Imanari roll, that one roll. He didn't try to set it up. He didn't try to hide it. He just kept going for that same thing.
Listen, I'm
Look,
sure
he
he
tried
knew.
one time, it doesn't try. He tried 5 times, it doesn't work. 10 times, it doesn't work. How many more times are you going to try the same thing without, approaching it differently? It was just a horrible.
I think maybe what he has is like a variation in submission attempts when he gets to that position. When he like twists and gets into that position. So maybe that's what he was hoping for, but like switch it up.
You need to learn how to set that up. You can't just jump into that. Like it's MMA. Mix it up.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, Ilia Topuria still undefeated and someone to definitely keep looking out after.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's another one with a very, very bright future. Ilia Topuria has been killing it in the UFC so far, and I'm definitely watching this guy.
Shout out Georgia.
Shout out to Georgia.
Yeah.
Next on the card, we had Michele Perrira defeating Niko Price in a unanimous decision. John, this was an interesting fight. Like I did say in our preview, if Perrira wants to win, he has to stop clowning around and take the fight seriously, and that's exactly what he did, and he got his hand raised. So kudos to him.
Yeah, he did do that. He was still flashy, but I do see what you're saying. He wasn't as flashy as he usually is in his other fights. He wasn't throwing those crazy capoeira kicks and punches. Yeah. Well, he was like a little bit, not to the extent that he usually does.
Right.
So maybe that did play a factor, but I did think he looked exceptionally well. You could see when he was fighting Niko Price, you could see who the stronger fighter was, who the more experienced fighter was, and that was Michael Perrira. Michael Perrira, I feel like he's on a good trajectory right now. He's winning fights. He's looking good, and I feel like the future is bright for him.
One thing to correct you, it's Michele.
Oh, it's Michele Perrira. Yeah, I apologize. I mean, look, that's how they were saying it on the broadcast, right?
Yeah, so I didn't realize how big of a size difference there was.
Also, on that topic, we must report to Dustin Poirier's name as Dustin Poirier.
I didn't realize how big the size difference was between Michele Perrira and Niko Price. Both guys are big for the division, but Perrira was noticeably, like, he had a larger frame, and you can tell he definitely had at least 10 to 15 pounds on Niko Price when they stepped into that octagon. And another thing I noticed I noticed this in the replay, and of course it's hard to get this during the action, but one of the flip kicks that he did to Niko Price when Niko was on the ground, it technically did kick him in the head. Like he made it was like a backflip and it kicked him in the head. And technically it's illegal, at least a point deduction or lose the fight. Michele Perrira, when he did that jump, he kicked. We can find that clip and post it up on our Instagram, but he basically did a backflip, and while he was trying to land on the body, he ended up kicking Niko Price's head.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know.
I mean, look, I'm not going to take away his whole performance just for that, obviously, but you never know if that point deduction came, it could have changed the pace of the fight.
He did like a backflip and he landed on the back of his head.
Like his shin, like the bottom of his foot, the bottom of his shin, like touched Niko Price's head. I mean, not touched, it kicked him, obviously, because he was flipping in the air, but.
Yeah, I think that's nothing. I feel like that's nothing, to be honest, because he didn't do it intentionally, first of all. Second of all, it's like, he happened to land there, but I guess it depends on who's looking at it and who's scoring it, but you do have a point there.
Wrapping up the prelims, we had Carlos Condit taking on Max Griffin. After 3 rounds of a hard-fought battle, Max Griffin took a unanimous decision win. hard fought fight between the two of these guys. It was a great performance and a great way to wrap up the prelim show.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that Max Griffin was going to come out here and starch Carlos Condit, which was not the case at all. He clearly was the better fighter in the fight, but Carlos Condit, got to give him credit. He's been doing this for such a long time, and even after doing it for 2 decades now, he's still looking pretty decent. It didn't go his way that night on Saturday night, but kudos to him and congratulations to Max Griffin for getting the job done.
Yeah, I still think Carlos Condit has a few fights left in him. We have mentioned before his age is getting up there, but look, he's still performing and he's hanging in there, and I don't think it's necessarily time for him to stop prematurely.
Yeah, I don't know if UFC is the right place for him, to be honest with you. I think he'll be better off in a smaller organization like a Bellator or PFL with competition that's not as good as the UFC. Because in the UFC, like, what is he going to accomplish anymore? He's done it all basically.
Yeah, I agree, but Carlos Condit is one of those guys where his career is the UFC. You know what I mean? It's pretty much where he started his career, and hopefully that's where he's going to end it. He's the UFC's fighter. You know what I mean? Like, he's pretty much grown under them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but there are fighters like a Randy Couture,
Yeah.
or like I don't know off the top of my head, but there are fighters that were with the UFC for a very long time, and then they just switch up because it's like better off for their career or finances. But
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So let's switch over to the main card. Starting it off, we had the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley taking on Kris Moutinho, who was making his UFC debut. John, this was a shocker to a lot of people. Obviously, everyone expected Sean O'Malley to get his hand raised, but Kris, that guy is tough as hell, man. I mean, he took a beating for 3 rounds. He wasn't slowing down one bit. Obviously, he didn't have much to respond to O'Malley with. Like, he didn't have the abilities of striking or whatever it was to put up much of a fight. But look, his durability stuck out to me a lot. And look, this guy, if he can get himself in there with some lower ranked competition just to get the ball rolling in his UFC career, I mean, I would love to see where he goes, because I can tell, like, this guy is not giving up if he's in the deep water.
Yeah, in terms of his heart, Kris Moutinho definitely has heart. He definitely has a crazy chin. Sean O'Malley is basically beating the shit out of him all fight. But I'm not really too impressed with the kid. Like, I understand he's coming in and fighting a Sean O'Malley, which is the highest of the high. But he didn't really do anything to impress me besides getting hit and not getting knocked out. Him fighting kind of reminded me of like the Rocky movies. You know how Rocky fought, just got beat up with his hands down the whole fight, and then like somehow kind of wins usually. So I feel like that's his fighting style. And I was actually looking at his video. I believe it was in the CFFC or another promotion that he fought in, and in this fight he gets knocked down like 5, 6, 7 times, and he still gets up. So his ability to do that is absolutely remarkable. But I don't think that says what type of fighter he is. But Sean O'Malley got the job done, did what he needed to do. I kind of got frustrated with the topic of Sean O'Malley last week. I feel like the UFC is just spoon feeding him. I keep saying this shit, but I feel like they're spoon feeding him. Out of all people, they couldn't find a different person than Kris Moutinho. This dude is not even good in smaller promotions. Like, why? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, look, Sean O'Malley did call out at the end of the fight. He did say none of the other UFC fighters on the roster wanted to fight him, at least the ones that were offered the fight. But look, next step for Sean O'Malley is a ranked opponent. We've had some back and forth on Twitter, on our Instagram with some of our fans. People threw out names like Marab. Sean O'Malley called out three big names. He called out Dominic Cruz, he called out Petr Yan, and Cody Garbrandt. So 3 big names. Of the 3 he called out, Petr Yan is obviously not going to make sense right now because he's waiting to get that title shot. The Cody fight makes sense, but I think Dominic Cruz is a little bit lower on that list. So as far as rankings and everything, so I feel like just setting that fight with Dominic Cruz would be easier in terms of both teams. I think once he gets past Dominic Cruz, which I see him doing easily, I think that next fight should be Cody Garbrandt. And those are 2 big names for that division. And you don't really get that too much at bantamweights or flyweights, but I think you can put together a nice event if you get O'Malley and Garbrandt headlining a UFC fight night or, some kind of card.
Yeah. So my dad actually yesterday asked me about. He basically said to me that Petr Yan doesn't want to fight Sean O'Malley, and my answer to him was, why would that make sense for him? Like, Perrira is basically the champion. I know Sterling has the title right
He
now.
is the champion.
He is the champion. Sterling has the fake title right now. But it doesn't really make any sense for him to fight Sean O'Malley right now. I'm not saying that that's not a possible fight in the future, but right now it just clearly makes no sense. The two other fights that he brought up, Cody Garbrandt or Dominic Cruz, you and I spoke about this. I personally don't know who I'd rather see him fight. I'm leaning more towards Cody Garbrandt. I'm not sure. I don't really have a good explanation as to why I want that fight. Maybe because they had some back and forth beef with that, because they both had a crazy knockout in like a similar time frame. So they were going back and forth. I feel like there's some tension between them, and I feel like that'll be an exciting fight. But either fight would be a step up in competition for Sean O'Malley and a great test for him.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple other people I wouldn't mind him fighting. Like I said, Marab I think is an excellent matchup and will be a very, very difficult fight for O'Malley. It'll let us see where his grappling defense is and how he can match up with a smaller, explosive wrestler.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't mind him seeing him get that Smoka fight that he was supposed to get this past weekend. And also, I wouldn't mind him running it back with Chito Vera, who just came off a big, big win as well. So I think Sean O'Malley has a lot of big options. So I think it'll be a huge fuck up on the UFC if they don't give him someone ranked or, one of these guys we just mentioned.
Yeah, in terms of Smoka, I'm kind of over that fight. I don't really want to see Sean O'Malley fight him anymore. Is Smoka even ranked? I don't think so.
I think obviously O'Malley deserves higher rank competition, but Smoka is someone that some people know. So for him to get a win over a recognizable name, I think it's time for Sean O'Malley to start getting the respect of people that are outside his fan circle. He needs to start beating names, start beating ranked opponents, and needs to start going about his career, I guess, a different way.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would rather see him fight Ricky Simone, or the
Yeah.
ideal situation for me would for him to fight Marab, whatever his last name is. Yeah, Marab is a outstanding wrestler, and Sean O'Malley, as I mentioned before, has never been tested in the grappling department like that. And we know that Sean O'Malley is a striker. He's not well versed in the grappling department, so this would be a huge test for him, and it would show us whether he's real or not.
Yeah, before we move on from this fight, one thing I also want to say, this fight was stopped 30 seconds before the end of the last round. Apparently, Herb Dean said he didn't know that there was that much time left on the clock, but I think it was a bad stoppage on Herb Dean's fault. I mean, the kid was taking a beating for 3 rounds, and just the moment he picked to stop the fight, I felt like there were better opportunities to stop it. And if you're gonna go ahead and stop it, like it's just so close to the end of the fight. I mean, the kid would have lost anyway, but getting a decision loss is different than getting a TKO loss on your record.
I completely agree with that. He stopped at a very weird time. They were in the middle of an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, I guess, mostly impacted by Sean O'Malley, but they were throwing back and forth, and the way Herb Dean stopped the fight, I agree with you, was pretty unconventional. But I'm not gonna put too much stock into it because the dude was just getting his ass whooped. He shouldn't have done that, but I'm not really upset with the decision. But he was just getting destroyed, and it had to be stopped at some point in that fight. Like, he was not going to win the fight. So Herb did mess up again. Herb's been on a pretty bad streak of messing up lately, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. I was getting nervous because I knew they announced ahead of time that he was going to referee the Conor and Poirier fight. And I was starting to get nervous, like, oh, fuck, we're going to have another Herb Dean mess up on the main event.
I don't know what's up with him. He used to be so good, but now maybe he's in his own head. Like, I really don't know what's up with him anymore. But with fights like Conor McGregor and Poirier, they have to referee, I feel like, a little differently than they do with smaller fighters, because these are like the biggest names in the sport. They can't just let the fight stop for bullshit. That's going to be a huge storyline.
Yeah, it's
headline.
a lot more consequences at that point, a lot more eyes on you, so a lot more pressure.
I guess they do have the responsibility of altering the way they referee, which I guess could get complicated, but Herb Dean needs to get his shit together before we call the real legend Keith Peterson. Yeah.
To continue the pay-per-view, we had Irene Aldana getting her hand raised against Yana Kunitskaya. So I missed the first couple minutes of this. I stepped out on the balcony just for a breather. Irene Aldana, though, she's tough, man. I was predicting for her to use her striking in her hands to get in the face of Yana and to keep her at a distance. And look, Yana put up a good fight, but did not go her way, unfortunately.
Yana put up a good fight for almost one round.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't enough to defeat Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana smashed her, man. She took her out, and it wasn't even close. I had high hopes for Yana Kunitskaya, but Aldana is Aldana is special, man. Like I wouldn't consider her like the top girl in the division, but she's somewhere around there. You know, she's doesn't have what it takes. I feel like to be like a Valentina or something like that, but she's right below that, I would say.
I think give her another year or two, and you'll definitely put her in a conversation closer, not with them necessarily, but closer. The girl's young, she's strong as hell. Like I said, her hands when she lets them go, I mean, that's just knockout power. And for someone her size, I mean, at bantamweight to have that kind of power, it's pretty impressive, you know.
Yeah, it's sad to see Yana Kunitskaya lose though. Santos has been losing lately, and now her. It's just a sad story, man.
Hey, hopefully the two of them can bounce back, be each other's moral support, and they can get each other back into the octagon, into the gym to train.
Yeah.
So this next fight that we had on the pay-per-view, this was one of my favorite fights on the card. We had Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa knocking the lights out of Greg Hardy. I'm not gonna lie and say I hate Greg Hardy as much as a lot of the fans do. I mean, that guy gets a lot of hate for his actions in the octagon, his actions in his personal life. The guy just gets a lot of hate. But I'm a big fan of Tuivasa, and that guy. I mean, his knockout was exciting. His celebrations were exciting. After the knockout in the first round, that was actually 1 minute and 7 seconds in the first round. He got up on the octagon. He did a shoey, which ESPN was able to get in like an HD slow-mo video, which they reposted. On the way out, he did like 2 or 3 more shoeys. Some asshole fan just poured a whole bunch of Poirier's hot sauce into one of the beers when he wasn't looking, so he wasn't happy about that. But man, I mean, just everything about Tai Tuivasa is just he's such a funny guy. I love when he fights. I mean, he's always putting on a show.
Yeah, you said you're not going to hate on Greg Hardy. I'm just going to start off with saying that I'm not really his biggest fan. He used to be in the NFL, and he got into some trouble with some like sexual allegations, like him beating up his girlfriend or something
Yeah, I think more than once too.
So if I don't know, I haven't really looked up the story to be completely honest with you, so I don't really know exactly what happened or if he was to blame or what happened with the whole
He was
situation.
to blame. It was multiple times.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then I'm not really a fan of his. But I wasn't really rooting for him to win, regardless of the matter. As you said, Tai Tuivasa is the man, and he put his lights out, bro. That knockout was insane, and the shoeys afterwards it's a perfect ending to that beautiful knockout, man.
Tai Tuivasa always did shoeys, but during the pandemic, he had a fight or two, and there were no fans to give him a shoey on the way out. And it was funny because I remember he went into the locker room after, and in the locker room, he made someone grab him a beer from God knows where in the Apex. He took someone's shoe in the locker room and did a celebration before leaving the building. I mean, like I said, there's just so much to love about this guy.
How much would it take you to do a shoey? How much money do you
New shoe or used shoe?
No, used shoe.
Like
a Tai Tuivasa.
I don't think there's any price you can put on that.
$100,000.
How long has the shoe been worn?
Oh, come on. It's
I don't know. It's disgusting.
The random shoe. It could be.
Would you do it for $100K?
Probably, yeah. $100,000. That's 1 year of my tuition, bro. Like, definitely worth it. And then just like take some antimicrobials. Just try to fucking. Nothing's gonna happen to you. Your stomach is.
Still disgusting. The smell, I can't imagine the taste.
I agree. It's fucking. I don't even know how something like that even came about. It's just a bunch of like jocks just getting hyped, like, oh, shoey, let's do it. Like a lot of rugby players do that shit as well. It's kind of disgusting, but it makes him who he is. He lightens up the moment and engages the audience with all that stuff. And he always has a positive attitude, and in combination with that, he's a great fighter. So it's easy to root on Tai Tuivasa for sure. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening. Not Dana White's favorite fight on the card. Gilbert Burns took on Stephen Thompson, which resulted in a unanimous decision win for Gilbert Burns. And I believe the difference in this fight was the grappling and was the takedowns. It wasn't really an exciting fight. I'm going to say that. But Gilbert Burns did what he had to do to take out Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson is extremely hard to fight. He has some insane takedown defense. His striking is superb. His kickboxing record he's undefeated in his amateur and pro career. So fighting someone like that is a difficult task to look good against. I know Anthony Pettis did it, but he's probably one of the only people to ever do something like that. So give it up to Gilbert Burns. He did a great job. But I'd like to see Stephen Thompson brush this one off and come back strong. He's still not done. I feel like he has a lot more to prove, and I'm still a huge fan of his.
Yeah, look, Gilbert Burns did a great job. For some reason, I'm noticing a pattern whenever people beat Wonder Boy, Dana White just isn't impressed. When Woodley beat him, when Burns is beating him, look, Woodley has a style where, like I mentioned in the preview show, if you want to beat Wonder Boy, you need to be able to grapple him and keep him on the ground. And look, I know it's not the most exciting fight for the fans, but if you want to get a win against a high-level striker like Wonder Boy, I mean, you have limited number of options. You can't stand there and strike with him. You know what I mean? He's just, like you mentioned, undefeated kickboxer, and his accolades there are just way too high. One thing I did find out though, Gilbert Burns brought in Raymond Daniels to train and help him prepare for Wonder Boy. For those that aren't familiar with Raymond Daniels, he's a very, very high level kickboxer. Similar style. I would say Raymond Daniels probably does a little bit more of the spinning kicks and everything, but the hip dexterity and just the way that their karate style is very similar. And I thought that was a very, very good strategic move by Gilbert Burns to get him into his camp.
Yeah, one thing he said about him was basically that he was stronger than Stephen Thompson. So when Gilbert Burns got into the fight, he wasn't really phased by Thompson's strength because people say that Stephen Thompson is an extremely strong fighter. So his preparation was definitely worth it, I would say, and definitely a great tactic. I would agree with you.
Look, man, I don't want to say this is what Wonder Boy gets, but like this is what happens when you're not active in the sport. I know he was
Uh,
sitting out for that title shot, but like he sat out for too long, in my opinion, for someone that wasn't at the very top of those rankings. And look, who knows? Maybe the activity would have been better for him. He would have been in camp. He would have been training more.
I
Uh,
think I think that he's always in camp. I don't think the issue is that he doesn't train. He just doesn't always fight.
that's true. Yeah, you're not wrong. But look, I mean, Wonder Boy is someone like I was saying for months. Like, when is his fight coming out? When is his fight? Like, he was sitting out for way too long. You know me. I don't like when fighters sit out for too long. I like to see them as long as they're healthy and able to fight. I love to see them back in there.
Yeah, but regardless of whether he took time off or not, I don't know how much that played a role. But I feel like if fight happened with Stephen Thompson being consistent, I feel like it would have ended in a similar fashion. It's just the difference in styles. And
Yeah.
Gilbert Burns, he has a takedown. He has enough power to take Thompson down and keep him on the floor, which is a lot of fighters weren't able to do. And I feel like that was the biggest difference in the fight. So I don't know how much time layoff matters. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong. But I personally, in this fight, with this fight specifically, I don't think that was a big factor.
Look, like you said, I would love to see Wonder Boy get back to the drawing board, make the corrections he needs, and get back in there. He's a great guy. He's exciting to watch, and Gilbert Burns, I'm very happy for him. Like I said, him moving up to welterweight, he's looking a lot better than he did at lightweight. The only guy that's beat him in that division so far is the champ, although not the biggest names like you pointed out to me this past weekend. But look, the record speaks for itself.
So the next fight to make is Gilbert Burns, and
Gilbert Burns, let's see. I think so. Covington is booked right now. Leon Edwards, I know you want to see him fight, but I think
is
homeboy
Covington
Leon
booked? Covington isn't booked yet.
isn't Usman Covington signed already?
No, Dana White said that that's the fight to make, but I don't think it's official yet. But yeah, okay,
I mean, look,
let's take that out of the picture because Dana White wants that fight to happen. Okay.
all right. Number two is Gilbert Burns. Number three is Leon Edwards, who I believe is pretty much he should just wait. If not Covington, Edwards needs that title fight. So I'm okay with Leon sitting this one out. If not, I guess it's not a bad matchup to make. Michael Chiesa is ranked number 5. That wouldn't be a bad matchup either. I don't believe he's matched up with anybody right now.
I don't think he is, but
How about Masvidal? I mean, it's a big
Masvidal.
name.
It's a
I
big
don't
money fight.
I don't think they train together, right? It's a money
No,
fight. It's a name. Masvidal's coming off a couple losses, so he has to take a step down in competition. Not that Burns is going to be an easy fight for him, but
Burns is gonna destroy him. Burns is gonna take him out.
he might. He just might. But yeah, I think actually, yeah, saying I think the Masvidal fight might make sense for Burns.
I'll probably have to go with the Leon Edwards fight, because I agree with you that he deserves the title shot right now, but I just feel like the UFC is not going to go that route. And in the meantime, with Leon Edwards, just fight Burns. I'm sorry you have all this bad luck. Just get over one more time, beat Burns, and then Dana White can't deny you the title shot after that. But
we've said that for the last like 5 fights.
Like Gilbert Burns is not easy. Is not an easy person to take out. So I feel like Leon Edwards is going to come all the way here, fight Gilbert Burns and lose, and then all that win streak, all that, all
it's
that.
Gonna be a Tony Ferguson situation.
It sucks. I personally, I don't know why he gets that type of respect, that type of
disrespect.
Treatment. Yeah, that type of disrespect and that type of treatment in the UFC. Like does he deserve it? I don't think his personality is that boring. I feel like there are more boring fighters in the UFC. So I really don't get it. So moving on to the main event of the evening, we had the return of Conor McGregor taking on Dustin Poirier for the third time. As you know, the first fight went Conor McGregor's way. The second fight went Dustin Poirier's way via TKO. And this fight ended in a win by Dustin Poirier via TKO's doctor stoppage. Unfortunate ending of the fight. Didn't really want to see it end that way. But I feel like Dustin Poirier dominated the first round. It's clear who the stronger and better fighter is at this moment in their career. And I feel like if they fought 10 times, Dustin Poirier would win at least, I want to say maybe, I'll be nice here. He'll win at least 7 or 8 of the 10 times. I'll give Conor McGregor 2, even though I don't think he has what it takes to win anymore. His chin is not there anymore, bro.
I agree. Poirier put the beats on Conor. He whooped his ass for the entire 5 minutes. Very unfortunate to how it ended, but look, Conor took a beating. It looked like he was kind of doing something. I mean, he was kicking him at Dustin Poirier at range, kind of keeping him at range. He went in for that guillotine, but I mean, he had it at first, but he should have let go of that a lot sooner than he did. I feel like that drained.
I don't know why he even went for that. Like, why?
It just drained out his strength and just kept him on the bottom. Like, Conor, you don't want to be in the bottom. Like, you're not good there. Like, especially
like, who have you ever submitted? Like, why do you think you're gonna submit Dustin Poirier? He was a black belt in jiu-jitsu and who's strong as fuck and like way ahead of you in terms of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like what was that game tactic? And also after him saying like that
first one to shoot's a dusty bitch.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Look, man, I saw the scorecards. I think MMA Junkie posted them. 2 out of the 3 judges scored it a 10-8 for Poirier. I saw an interview with MMA Junkie and John Kavanagh, who is Conor's coach, and he was saying how he thought Conor was doing very well and they were ready to make the adjustments in between rounds and get the finish in the second round. Now, I got very curious what the comments would say. And, they were just lighting Kavanagh up. He's like, did Conor's coach even watch the fight? Was he even in the building? Like, what the hell is he seeing? I mean, look, I don't think Conor was even close to winning that round. I don't know. As a coach, maybe he saw something that he can take an opportunity of and make adjustments in between round. I can't speak to that, but I don't know. I after the first minute or two, I think it was clear that Poirier was the better man in there.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And now they're talking about the fourth fight. Personally, like, listen, Conor McGregor, what pisses me off is like he loses the fight, he just takes like a little bitch and calls Dustin Poirier's wife a whore for like sliding into his DMs. Like, dude, take that shit like deal with it personally. Like, why do you have to expose it to? Like, what did Dustin Poirier do to you for you to be this angry at him? Like he hasn't done anything to Conor McGregor besides beat him fairly. But like, yeah. You don't act like that. No one, like, I personally don't really, like, I respect him less after that,
Yeah, I lost pretty much almost all the respect I had left for him. Look, the outcome is unfortunate. It is upsetting no matter who you are. From the start, we see him yelling, it's not a TKO, it's a doctor stoppage. But look, buddy, Silva lost his belt with snapping his leg on Weidman. Weidman got a loss to Uriah Hall when he slapped his leg. Doctor stoppage or not, it's a loss. It's a TKO, it's a loss. Then he goes off and, like you mentioned, calling out all this crap about Poirier's wife, which was messed up. I have a feeling it's not even true. He probably just photoshopped that and posted it up there. And then, just after everything, he's saying how it's not over. I'm going to kill you. I'm like, dude, you just got your ass beat twice. Like, your ankle's flopping all over the place. Like, act like a real athlete.
Yeah, and then not Kayla Harrison, her friend Ronda Rousey comes out and says she was like praising Conor McGregor for like scheduling another fight or promoting another fight when he was in agony after a recent loss.
Well, yeah, we know Rousey would never do anything like that. She doesn't have the mental strength for that. Look, props to Conor for having the spirits to get back in there, but I think it's a horrible idea.
I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he's just a psychopath, and he was just expressing his emotions and saying that like he's gonna kill Dustin Poirier. That this is not over. Obviously, he doesn't want to lose. He really wanted to win this fight. Like all the things that he said coming into this fight, like he clearly wanted to win. He looked heated in every single press conference. So obviously a loss like this hurts him. Like, he hasn't won a fight. Yeah, he won one fight since 2016, I believe. He won one fight since Barack Obama. It's ridiculous. Like, he's
Look,
not the same fighter anymore, and people just have to understand that. And it is what it is. It happens to everybody, and it happened to him a little bit early, but it is what it is.
Look, man, in my opinion, I don't think Conor should have ever returned after fighting Floyd Mayweather. I think that should have been his ticket, cash out, that's it. Maybe have a few more boxing fights because there's less risk than MMA fights. Cash out and ride into the sunset, do something else. I think his biggest mistake in his athletic career was returning after fighting Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he made so much more money. And look, I know he is who he is because of the UFC and his ego. He needs to still be the shit, and that's why he went back. But look, man, if you're not, like I always say, if you're not keeping up with the sport's going to catch up to you and not going to end very well for you, probably.
Yeah, we spoke about this yesterday, and I agree with you that I think that he should have retired after the Floyd fight, because after that, it went pretty much all downhill besides the washed up Cowboy Cerrone fight.
Exactly. Washed up Cowboy. Look, I love Cowboy. He's a great fighter, and he has an amazing Hall of Fame career. But he fought Cowboy at the very, very end of his career when he's really not performing the way that he used to. And he was in and out of there in, what was it, a minute or two? Like, I don't know if that's a win you can necessarily be proud of. Obviously, it's a big name. It was on a big stage. It was Conor's return after a long layoff, but it's not an impressive win in my opinion.
Yeah, as the legend Stephen A. Smith said after the fight, that Conor McGregor didn't do much to really show us anything. And that's exactly what you just said in different words. Conor McGregor didn't show us anything. He hit him with some shoulder strikes, which were really unconventional. And I believe that for the most part, for the most majority of the people in the division, that wouldn't have rocked them or stunned them. Cowboy Cerrone is just not the same fighter anymore, and that's exactly what happened. He just got knocked out because he's not the same fighter anymore, not because Conor McGregor is this powerful, good fighter. Just Cowboy Cerrone is just not the same.
Yeah, regardless of what Conor wants, though, he just had surgery. It sounds like it went well. Actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, I sent you a DM. I don't think you answered. So I saw MMA Medic is a really interesting page that posts a lot of the fighters' injuries and their recoveries. So they're putting a whole rod into the entire shin bone of Conor. Is that how they fix the ankle? I thought they would just put some screws by the ankle, maybe a plate to fix that.
It wasn't the ankle that was broken. It was the tibia and the fibia, which is basically, how your leg goes down and it comes off with like two different bones coming into one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
One of them is the tibia, one of them is the fibia, which he fractured both. One of them was worse.
Fractured or broke? So that ankle.
One of them, that fracture is a break. So he broke. So he broke one more than the other, and the one that you're referring to with the rod completely like across the whole bone. I believe that was the tibia, and the other rod was a little smaller. I believe maybe because I'm not a doctor, but I believe that was just a smaller break. But the doctors say that he's gonna recover 100% within 6 months or so, 6 to 12 months. Honestly, after an injury like that, I don't really care what the doctors have to say. You're never gonna come back the same fighter or the same person ever again. Like, you had metal in your body. He's gonna have metal in his body for a very long time. Who knows about the flexibility, the strength,
mobility, all of that.
All that. It's not gonna be the same. Like, it's gonna be maybe close to the same, but it's not gonna be the same. And plus, when he recovers, he's gonna be older in age. He's gonna be 1 to 2 years older than he is right now. So, like, how is he going to look? If he doesn't look good right now, how's he going to look in 2 years, especially with the layoff due to such a severe injury. So it's hard to imagine how Conor McGregor is going to come back stronger after this.
It's crazy. Well, he's going to need minimum 6 months just for him to get walking on that foot again, let alone put the strain of kicking and wrestling and all the other pivoting that he does. But look, in my opinion, he should not come back. It's going to be another gap. We already see that the sport is surpassing him. And look, it's not like Conor's going to come back and fight a lower ranked guy. You know what I mean? That's just not who Conor is. They're going to go back and give him another high level guy, whether it's Gaethje, whether it's Dustin, whether it's Oliveira, there's so many killers in that division. And I think a lot of people can beat Conor. Conor still has some people he can beat, but a lot of people can beat Conor right now. I think for Conor, if he were to come back, it's a time to make that RDA fight. For the past God knows how many years I was saying, how the hell is this fight even in conversation? But look, now that fight is intriguing to me because of how much more impaired Conor is compared to where he was a couple of years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and how much shit Conor McGregor and RDA are talking to one another. RDA literally hates the dude's guts, and I really don't blame him. But yeah, Conor McGregor is not the same anymore, and I don't think he should come back. But like, you and I are not people to judge when people are supposed to continue fighting or when they're supposed to hang up the gloves. So whatever he wants to do, we'll obviously continue watching him, but it just doesn't seem like he has a bright future in MMA or even in boxing, to be honest with you, aside from the money.
I agree. I mean, look, I don't think he's ever going to be able to do MMA at the same level again because, look, an injury like that, you will not be kicking the same. Even if you try to, even if you want to, you will not be able to kick the same. Boxing, maybe it's a little bit safer of a route. I mean, he's going to be pivoting off of that foot instead of kicking with it, so it's maybe less strain. But again, how much different is it going to be after the recovery? So yeah, that was UFC 264. Really exciting fight. One more thing before we wrap it up. The press conference between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley was earlier this week. Haven't completely gone through it. I've only seen the first few minutes of it, so can't really give you guys my take yet. But it is on YouTube if you guys want to catch it. Johnny, I saw you commented that you almost forgot that this fight was even happening. But keep it on your radar, guys. It's going to be at the end of August, I believe, August 29th. If you need a way to keep track of your MMA and boxing events, check out InsideTheClinch.com. We have an MMA calendar on there with all the different MMA events, BKFC, boxing.
Yeah, and follow us on all our social media platforms, as Eric is going to mention right now. We post stuff there daily. All not just our podcast stuff, but MMA news. Anything that we find interesting, we put on there. Usually it's on Instagram, but we like to use Twitter and Facebook as well. So check us out on there, and thank you guys for listening.
Guys, on Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thanks, guys. Catch you next week.